In a 42-0 game, a 4th and 3, Hugh Freeze is going to go for it. Devontae Kincaid at quarterback. They've gone for it on 4th down once before in this game. Some miscommunication and guys in motion. Kincaid takes it himself, and he is brought down short. Why did Hugh Freeze go for it on 4th and 3?
Yeah, the only thing I can figure is, we mentioned earlier, Devontae Kincaid hadn't gotten a lot of reps. He was a situational quarterback for him. Vanderbilt, I think just about the last time where he got some meaningful snaps. He's intent on getting him some more reps. You got almost all your backups in, but yeah, that was interesting that he didn't kick it.
Let's go down to the sidelines now, where Heather's standing by with a former Rebel back home.
Yeah, I'm here with wide receiver Dante Moncrief. First time back since you were drafted in the 3rd round by the Indianapolis Colts. We saw you on the sideline talking to Treadwell. What did you say to him?
I mean, just to get better and stay focused. Don't let the minor setback keep him down. He knows he's a great receiver, and he knows he got to come back and help the team soon. So I just told him to stay focused and keep the boys going and keep the room going, because he's the vet in the room now, so he knows the big role that he played in the room.
You played with these guys last year. You were saying Vince Sanders is out here doing work. What do you think of the rest of the wide receiver core?
Man, the wide receiver room is great. You can play any one of those guys. The guys are young, a lot of potential. I mean, they're learning a lot as they go. So, I mean, you just got to watch those guys. Those guys are going to be some big-time playmakers.
What's it like playing with Andrew Luck?
I mean, it's great. I mean, just getting the trust from the guy. I mean, he's a great quarterback on and off the field. So, I mean, just being around him, you just learn a lot about him. So I'm just learning from him and taking everything in as a rookie.
Thanks, Dante.
All right, Heather, thanks. Great job. Dante Moncrief and his Colts were in action on Monday night of this previous week. Got the week off. The quarterback for Presbyterian is Caleb Griffin. Griffin got a start against Western Carolina. That was a big win for him. And it's a 9-yard run for Blake Roberts. Griffin in that game went 15 of 26 for 133 yards. He's a redshirt junior from Florence, South Carolina. Out of South Florence High School, he was replacing Hayes McMath. McMath just 9 of 17 for 59 yards today and a pick.
A tough day. It's a tough day for just about any quarterback, much less one from the FCS level, to come in here and face this type of defense. Big playmaking ability that they've had, and not the most secure pocket to work in most of this game.
First down picked up by Blake Roberts. We were talking about these subs on both sides of the ball for Ole Miss getting opportunities today. We saw firsthand last week that you can be a less than adequate practice player, whether it's effort or execution during the week, and be a great game player. We saw that in Joshua Dobbs for Tennessee. The knock against him, folks around the program say, he just doesn't show it in practice. He doesn't show that consistency. And lo and behold, he goes out and runs for a school record against South Carolina. Yeah, and we probably wouldn't have found that out until Justin Worley injured his shoulder, ultimately having season-ending surgery on that shoulder. But that's the challenge. It ends up being a trust thing more than anything. Is can the coaching staff, can his teammates trust this guy to take care of business on game day when you're not seeing it the other 5 and 6 days of preparation? And so it's hard to get those guys. How do you find out? You just roll the dice with a guy that doesn't practice well. You see at Tennessee, Joshua Dobbs, he gets that opportunity and seizes it, and has clearly elevated Tennessee's play on the offensive side of the football. Taylor Polk is in at linebacker for Ole Miss. A lot of movement on that side of the ball. Gone down to 3rd and 4th string players. And incomplete, trying to find Joseph Purder, sophomore at Shaw High School in Columbus, Georgia. So, for Tennessee, the quarterback situation is something different. It's Dobbs. It's his job. He is now the starting quarterback. But if Worley wasn't hurt, can you forget about those practice habits based on just one game? Or does it take longer than that to prove that you can play? Yeah, that would be the hard. I tell you what, that whole situation was curious, but that would be the hard part to figure out is, can you duplicate it? And the other challenge is, especially at quarterback, is guys will come in off the bench and they'll play well, but if they get to start the next week, and we've seen this with Brandon Harris at LSU, plays great off the bench versus a lesser team. Joshua Dobbs played great versus Alabama, but can you do it the next week?
teams can come in, backup quarterbacks can come in, but it's a different deal when you're the guy. And now you have all that pressure, and they prepare for you all week long. South Carolina wasn't able to improve on Alabama's performance versus Joshua Dobbs in the second week. But that's, I think, the real question mark that makes it hard for coaching staff is if you don't play well during the week in practice, how can they trust you to perform well and just flip the switch on game day?
Markel Pack has returned as the punt returner for Ole Miss. He stands at the 5, see if he takes it or lets it go. And he'll dance out of the way. It turns into a Presbyterian touchback.
39-yard punt.
Stephen Dorr has been a standout punter today for Presbyterian, but that one just took an extra hop he wasn't hoping for. 38-yard punt. Ole Miss back on offense. University of Mississippi ROTC programs marched onto the field. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines represented. And a nice ovation for these young men and women.
That's impressive, and that's some of America's finest. You know that there's a lot of gratitude in this stadium and nationwide for their contributions. Look at the stadium. It's a great color scheme for a Veterans Day celebration. Red, white, and blue all over the place.
Quintavious Burdett on the reception from Ryan Buchanan.
You can see, Dan Warner shared with us yesterday, they would probably rotate, and it'd be a series by series arrangement at the quarterback spot. Devontae Kincaid opening things up once Bo Wallace ceded that position. He and Buchanan swapping series.
Burdett again. Ed Britt with the tackle. Quarterback is, and this is not unique to Ole Miss, but you're looking at an Ole Miss team which lost its probably best 2 athletes on the team to season-ending injuries in Treadwell and Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle. Ole Miss doesn't have any. Probably Tunsil not lost for the season, excuse me, but out for the time being. Jordan Wilkins finds a sideline. And he will win this foot race. It's been a record-setting day for Jordan Wilkins, a 73-yard run. Jordan Wilkins is having a career day. 10 carries for 171 yards, and that closes out an 80-yard drive with 73 on the ground. What put him and Dodson together. And those guys have been unstoppable today. Extra point's no good. 13 carries, 299 yards, and 3 touchdowns combined between Mark Dodson and Jordan Wilkins. Wilkins already had a 50-yard run today, and this one turns into a 73-yard foot race, and he wins more for Ole Miss. Their injured wide receiver, and the running backs have taken center stage today. Wilkins and Dodson, even without Jalen Walton and Itavius Mathers. Pretty impressive, and especially considering, as Hugh Freeze said to our Heather Mitts at the half, if they're running clean, that means the offensive line has done a pretty good job.
Yeah, all the more impressive, because as we mentioned, they're largely backups in there now, but even when they were starters were out there, they did well.
Nathan Noble is, I think, the 4th kicker Ole Miss has used today as he kicks off. Jeremiah Mackey with a nice return. You know, there's kind of like playing golf against your own score. There's one area of the game where it doesn't matter who the opponent is, and that's the kicking game for the most part. And if you wanted to put a failing grade next to anything for Ole Miss today, that would be it.
Yeah, it's been an ugly day, really. I mean, they had a nice punt return. They block a punt early in the first quarter on the first offensive possession for Presbyterian, and then otherwise, though, you've got a near fumble. A fumble recovery ended up being Markel Pack fielded a punt inside the 10-yard line. We saw a missed field goal, a blocked field goal, a missed extra point. Hadn't been a good special teams game that regard.
A missed extra point. Darrell Wilson with the carry, and we haven't seen, they've rotated all these kickers through. I don't know that we've seen Gary Wunderlich all day. I don't know if he kicked off. He certainly hasn't attempted any of these scoring kicks.
And you think of how important those aspects of the play really are. I mean, you punt, obviously, from a field position standpoint. You drive the ball down within scoring position. You want to at least get a field goal. You come away empty-handed twice in this game. And extra points, you think back to the Alabama game, that's a tightly fought contest. You can't afford to cede what is otherwise a gimme. 1 point with after the touchdown try.
Caleb Griffin gets it out to Darrell Wilson. Good for a first down for Presbyterian. A.J. Moore with the tackle. His brother C.J. Moore lines up at safety. Hugh Freeze came into Sunday's meetings after doing some quick math and some thinking in his thinking chair about the message to deliver to this team, and one of those messages is we're still in this thing. We don't control our fate as much as we did in the 2 weeks prior. We're going to need some help, but Ole Miss and what has been may turn out to be a league of cannibals, a division of cannibals. Ole Miss is still alive. They need a little bit of help to win the West, but we certainly would expect upsets to happen, and especially in the SEC, you expect the home team to win, and if that plays out, that's how Ole Miss can win the West.
Yeah, you take a look at what's left in the West Division, the teams that are contending, and there's a scenario that says all 5 of these teams that you see here could end up tied. But there's also a scenario that says if LSU takes care of Alabama at home, you see there at the top of their schedule on the far right, you know, if they take care of Alabama today, then that allows Alabama that if they win out and they take care of Mississippi State, well, one of these teams can end up evening up that record. And of course, Ole Miss owns the tiebreaker versus Alabama. They need Alabama to be a 2-loss football team, and then they want to end up tied with them in that capacity. But what you don't want, of course, you know, if LSU can't beat Alabama today and Auburn is able to take care of A&M, then basically what you're asking is for Vanderbilt to beat Mississippi State. And at that point, you talk about some remote possibilities, because the Commodores don't seem to be that big of a threat versus Mississippi State this season. So because of it, you know, it's a big gateway game for Ole Miss. Is can LSU take care of business today? I think that's the likeliest hope to win this division.
And then it's really simple if you're an Ole Miss fan to follow it. Those teams we just showed you want every team to win their home games.
Right.
If that happens, you end up in a tie scenario where you hold a tiebreaker advantage. Advantage Ole Miss all day today, midway through the 4th quarter. The number is 48 for the Rebels.
Ole Miss needs to win on the road in 2 weeks versus the Razorbacks, and they need the Razorbacks to take care of LSU, because obviously they would not win the tiebreaker if they ended up with the same record with the LSU Tigers. So a winless Arkansas team hasn't gotten a single win in conference yet. They've been very close this year. Ole Miss needs them to get pretty good versus LSU, and they need them to recede back to their usual form when they face them off of their bye week.
So a lot left to play for this Ole Miss program, still playing for a chance to win the West. And coaching every day to help make Dad proud. And for more on that, let's go down to the sideline where Heather Mitz is standing by with Hugh Freeze's Pops Danny.
Danny, you were a coach for 17 years in high school football. You were essentially your son's inspiration. What's been the best part of the journey?
Well, just to be able to continue what I was doing and enjoy the best part of life with him, you know.
You said you no longer give your son advice, but back when you did, what was the best advice you gave him?
To be dedicated to what you're doing and never give up.
Once again, what are you most proud of with your son's journey?
Well, I think the ability to captivate young people and get them on the same page and try to create within them a desire to live a better life.
Thanks so much for your time. Go enjoy the rest of this game.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Great job. It's we were talking with Coach Freeze about it yesterday, Hugh Freeze, and it's kind of a cats in the cradle type thing in a positive way with he and his father. He was always tagging along to his dad's games as an assistant coach, and now you got dad tagging along to your games. He said the biggest thing I worry about is him getting hit on the sideline. You know, I can tell he's always in the locker room. He's around, loves being around the guys. He's the first one out of the locker room so he can get out in front of them. He said, but then during the game, he got trucked in the, I think it was the Auburn game last year. It's like, I'm worried, Dad, you got to stay back. It's probably the same words that Danny was using on a young Hugh back in the day. You can take water to the guys, but stay back off the sideline a little bit.
That's right. Keep your head on the swivel, son. And you can imagine, you know, Coach Freeze, the son version this time around, coaching up his old man to make sure that he keeps him safe and he can continue to enjoy it. You know, the word picture that Hugh Freeze shared with us yesterday, when he's addressing the team before the game and he looks up and there's his dad. He's one of the biggest smiling faces right there, just as captivated as some of these young minds. Got to be proud of his son and what he's done and taking a leap of faith, leaving that great job that he had, a very successful one in the high school ranks, to come here to Ole Miss.
This is Eugene Brasley. A couple carries for him on this drive. He was the head coach of Briarcrest Christian and then had an opportunity to join Ed Orgeron on staff here. Not really the coaching staff, more in a support role. And he told his dad, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And it almost seemed like if Dad had his druthers, he wouldn't have left a good high school job because he had a family and kids. You know, you're really rolling the dice here. Make sure you're thinking everything through. Well, certainly worked out for Hugh Freeze. On 2nd and 5, they pull the guard and lead for the quarterback. Devontae Kincaid is able to run behind those big fellas. Is that fun as an offensive lineman? Get out there and run?
Yeah, it depends on if the defensive back wants to cut you and or try to juke you, which, as we all know, is pretty easy to do when you got the big boys out there wearing their roller skates out in space. But, yeah, especially if you catch them not looking, you know. One of those times where you get to lay somebody out is always a nice opportunity. You see a guy that does a pretty good job blocking on the perimeter in Laquan Treadwell. That's one of the things Ole Miss didn't have to do. They didn't have to pull a lineman very often. You got a wide receiver out there throwing pancake blocks on defensive backs. He's actually as athletic as the DBs that he's facing, and a heck of an ambassador for the program, as you can see. It's part of the reason why you see so many letters of support, as you mentioned, outside of the Ole Miss footprint. The type of kid that Laquan Treadwell is. Any program would want him on the field, but certainly off the field as well. Makes his contributions felt.
I thought Dante Moncrief had a great piece of advice for Laquan. He's still in that meeting room. You still have a lot to share and stay involved. And a wide receiver core that's really going to have to step up in the last couple of SEC games. And of course, we outlined all those ways Ole Miss could win the West. Let's not forget that what had everybody excited through the first 6-7 weeks of the season, especially in the Magnolia State, was the thought that the Egg Bowl was going to be kind of a knockout game, not only for an SEC championship, but maybe a national championship. And with these breaks falling Ole Miss's way, starting with that game you're talking about tonight, the Egg Bowl is probably going to be huge for Mississippi State as it is. And now all of a sudden, that one game Thanksgiving weekend could be deciding who heads to the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I mean, it really could. It'll certainly play a role. And if you look at it today, if both Auburn and Alabama were to fall, Auburn being certainly the more remote of the two possibilities, then if Ole Miss is able to take care of business, then you've got basically a play-in game in the Egg Bowl. The whole SEC West division would boil down to that ball game. If in fact Alabama took care of business the way that it seemed like they could, and that's the case, then it's just like 2 weeks ago prior to the two losses for Ole Miss and Mississippi State. The season will end exactly the way we thought it would at that point.
Another carry for Eugene Brasley. I was talking with some folks here locally yesterday around town, and they said, yeah, of course it's going to be big. Floors are already being reserved. I'm not talking about hotel floors. I mean like living room floors, because all the beds are taken, the couches are spoken for. So you've got relatives, friends, and family calling up now saying, the hardwood's fine. I'll bring a sleeping bag, but I'm going to be at your house Thanksgiving weekend for the Egg Bowl. You think this place will be nuts?
Stock up on some camping gear.
That's right.
Get a little air mattress because there's no room at the end anymore.
This is Brasley again, the freshman from New Orleans. Coaches wanted to see what he could do. They documented the lack of success running between the tackles this season.
Brasley, a guy that he was one of the guys that was really exciting to Hugh Freeze. You know, they felt like he was a guy between the tackles that could do some things that, in fact, what we've seen Mark Dodson and Jordan Wilkins do. Another guy that, you know, we really hadn't touched on offensively for Ole Miss, but who was willing to gut it out, play through injury last week, was Ben Still, their center. Missed the LSU game and was really only going to play in an emergency capacity. He's a guy that they need to get healthy as well as they get this final stretch.
Ole Miss choosing to keep the offense on the field on another 4th down attempt. They'll take a closer look at this one with 24 seconds left in the game from Oxford. Well, they're going to go ahead and run the clock after they decided that Ole Miss had indeed picked up that first down. Hugh Freeze's team goes to 8-2 on the season. They get an off week next week before stepping back into SEC play. A dominating performance from beginning to end for the Ole Miss Rebels. 48-0 is the final score here today. Let's take a look now at our Capital One Cup impact performance. Jordan Wilkins, 10 carries, 171 yards, and a touchdown. He came in averaging just over 15 yards a game, and he had a career day today. The running backs were magnificent for Ole Miss throughout this game. Wilkins had a 73-yard touchdown run. Dodson had runs of 62 and 65 yards. Bo Wallace played a half and has enough to put up some numbers and get a win for the Rebels. We've got more coming your way from Oxford. We'll catch up with Jordan Wilkins right after this. It's a final score, Ole Miss over Presbyterian. The running game was the focus this week in practice. That's what the coaches wanted to see out of the program today. That's exactly what we got. And for more on that, let's take you down to the sidelines and Heather Mitz.
Jordan, breakout game for you today, 171 yards and 1 touchdown. How did it feel out there in the field?
It felt good just to get out there and show what I can do. I know Coach all week told that a lot of people that didn't get as many reps they'd like during the season would come out and have a shot at showing their ability, and I think I did pretty well.
They really wanted to get the running game established today. What was working for the running core today?
Really, the O-line just locked in. They made big holes for us, so it was, I'll give them all the credit, but we just did what we could do with it.
Congratulations. Enjoy the bye week, and good luck versus Arkansas.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, Heather, thanks. That running game will be a key against Arkansas, especially with the loss of Laquan Treadwell for the rest of the season. It was dominating today. 402 yards on the ground for Ole Miss on just 66 plays. They hang 42 on the board. Pardon me, 48 on the board. Coming up next, Mississippi, where the Rebels roll. 48-0 is our final score. And a beautiful fall afternoon from Oxford. So long, everybody.